everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of ClueCon Weekly. Joining us this week is Alex Ramirez, Head of Software Development at Precision Development. And, well, we met at ClueCon, Erlang expert, and I'm very interested in what you do at Precision because it sounds like it's very interesting and a different use case. So thank you for joining us.
You're welcome, and thank you for having me.
Would you like to give us just a quick intro about yourself?
Sure. So about me, I am, well, as you mentioned, I'm the head of software development at Precision Development. Um, we work with farmers, by the way. It's not software development, and we'll talk more about that. I've been in the industry for about 20 years, so started back in 2005. Since 2008, I've been a software developer, mostly with object-oriented programming languages for the past, I would say probably 10 years. But in the past few years, I've been working with Erlang and functional programming, which is my current role at PXD. Um, and a little bit about my education. So I have a bachelor's degree from East West University, cybersecurity certificate from MIT, and I also taught cybersecurity for 3 years at various universities around Chicago and the Midwestern states.
Nice. So, well, first of all, what I'm very interested about what you actually do at Precision and what Precision does in general. Because again, we usually have people on the show, that do normal, say, software, telcos, whatever, but not so, it's not very physical as a word, right? Well, you have a very big impact.
We do, and that's one of the things, or one of the reasons why I'm here. So basically, we help smallholder farmers. So farmers in developing countries that have like maybe an acre, 2 acres of land, we provide them with agronomic information about how to get better yields for their crops, how to raise their livestock, for example. Um, and we scale that out, right? So we'll do small trials with maybe a few hundred, maybe a few thousand farmers. And once we have a system of agricultural information and ways of getting that information to them, one of those is IVR, for example, with FreeSWITCH, then we scale that out to millions of farmers. And currently, we've reached out to about 10 million farmers. We have big programs in Odisha, we have big programs in Ethiopia, where we're reaching millions of farmers per day using FreeSWITCH and other technologies that we'll talk about.
Nice. So, what are a few examples of information that Precision distributes through the systems?
So for example, I'll talk about some specific programs. So in Kenya, we have a dairy program. So we partner with some of the dairies there, or the dairy cooperatives, who have a bunch of different members, and we get the phone numbers for those members from the cooperatives, and then we prepare information about the little cows, like when are they lactating, what kind of feed should they get, and we send that information to the farmers. They can then interact with our service, so they can send us an SMS message back or give us a call, and then ask or provide more information about their cows. So like we ask them how many cows they have, what kind of feed they're giving them, and then we can adjust. We can say, oh, well, you need to give more green food, for example, or green pasture to your cows so that it produces more milk. And then we see what that impact is on the other end. So saying, okay, well, now let's talk to the cooperatives. And for that intervention, right, like when we send all these messages and all this data, did that produce a positive impact in the amount of milk that the cows were giving? And then we adjust from there. So if it didn't, then we try something else. If it did, then we keep doing it.
That's very, very interesting. And yeah, so I think these are developing countries. So I assume the main channels are the simpler ones. So is that correct? Like you're mainly seeing voice and SMS traffic?
Yeah, so actually, no.
No?
One of the key aspects that we found is that people prefer voice. So
Oh,
IVR is actually our primary channel. We use
oh,
SMS because a lot of farmers don't have good reception where they're at. Which, going back to some of the things that you talked about in ClueCon, is that node where you set up a free switch inside of a telco repeater, so a cell phone tower repeater. Like that I think is a great idea where we could set up one of those and put it close to the farmer so that they can get the IVR calls. I'm getting ahead of myself, but but basically, they do prefer IVR systems, and in
Oh
certain
well,
countries,
that's
yeah,
surprising.
yep.
You were
So
saying in
this is
other countries?
well, so this is the kind of research that we do, right? So like part of the organization is about research. So we try out different things, obviously, to see what works and what doesn't, and then adjust that to make sure that we have the greatest impact. And in other countries, for example, I was going to say that the SMS is also not preferred. Like if they have a large amount of smartphones, they prefer channels like WhatsApp. Um, like for example, in India, we have large WhatsApp channels, and not we actually don't have any SMS currently. We only have IBR and WhatsApp.
WhatsApp, yeah, WhatsApp is very common in a lot of developing countries, and but they have do they have no day access to or little access to, let's say, not a normal web application, for example. They actually prefer voice over web pages, I assume.
They do, because a lot of the farmers that we're reaching are still maybe not as literate
Mhm.
as the rest of the population. So having the ability to hear and listen and understand that way is a lot easier and better than trying to read a web page or an SMS message even.
That's really super interesting. Well, and I remember when we met at ClueCon, one thing we briefly touched on upon, I'm really curious about. You use Erlang for some of the systems, do you?
We use Erlang for all of our systems actually.
Oh,
So yeah,
plain
so
Erlang,
the
like no sugar, no elixir, nothing on top, just
nope,
beam
it's the
straight up.
beam box and Erlang all the way. So yeah. Uh,
Well, then tell me
which
more. How
Yeah,
did you pick
well,
that? How did you get into that?
so this was picked by our lead architect, who's no longer with the company, but he was the architect of Patty, Sam Bannerwarden. He developed Patty, and one of the reasons why he picked Erlang was because it has innately a lot of the capabilities that are necessary for being able to handle that scale up, right? You can have 100 farmers or you can have 100 million farmers. And as far as the Erlang capabilities, they will just work the same. Like it will handle that load. Maybe you need to get a little bit of a bigger server, but that's it, right? Pop on a new server, put some more RAM, and you can handle that scale up without having to change your code. That was one of the major reasons for that. Um, and then I think it's used a lot in telecom, Erlang. That's where it was born and where it has its biggest use. But that was the main reason why it was picked. The scale.
Wow. And so to put things into perspective, how much throughput do you handle and how many servers do you have?
Well, it depends on the system. So basically, we set up small little systems. Well, we don't set up small systems, but we set up systems based on our partnerships. So
Hmm.
currently, we have systems in Ethiopia. There's one system there. We have two systems in Kenya, um, and we have at this time three systems in India. Um, each system handles a different amount of users. For example, in Ethiopia, we have 250,000 farmers currently registered and receiving messages. In India, we have our biggest system, and we have about 1.5 million farmers that are receiving IVR calls.
That's a lot. Yeah. There's a lot of traffic for smaller servers. And well, shameless plug. I love Erlang. I've done some projects in Erlang and Elixir. And this is why people should look into that kind of platform. You can run a lot of traffic on less resources, and it's ultimately cheaper. Like it's very, very good. It is. It
Yep.
is really good.
Yeah. Currently, our servers, just to give you an idea, biggest server we have has 64 gigs of RAM, four CPUs with like virtual cores, and like 2 terabytes of storage space. And that's enough to handle 1.5 million users. So,
Yeah, that is very effective. Like we're looking at as a small server for what it's doing for sure. It's a really, really
yep.
great system. And well, so people go check out Erlang. It's great. Maybe try Elixir. I will recommend that. The same virtual machine, but you don't have to understand how strings work. Strings in Erlang always trip me. Like strings are the one thing that
Yeah,
I
unless
never
you're a
fully
hardcore.
remember. Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, unless you're a hardcore programmer, Elixir is better. 100% agree with you on that one.
Yeah, it is just Erlang has its own quirks, but it's also very, very good. And I'm always surprised not more companies in the telco industry use Erlang, which ultimately is literally
Yeah,
what it is for.
it is. My personal opinion on that is that it's a lot harder to master. So it has a large learning curve. As you mentioned, just dealing with strings is not simple. Um, and it has a lot of power packed into it, right? So if you don't understand the subtleties and all the little details, it can be hard to work with, which I think is one of the big problems with adoption. People like simple things.
Mm, yeah, it's not very easy to get started at that for sure.
Yeah. But if you can do it and you master it, it's a great platform. It's actually, well, a little bit of an aside, but I used to work at the finance industry, and one of the big things that we had was a problem with reliability because when you're having billions of dollars of trades, one mistake can cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars. So in my research, we're trying to figure out like what is the best programming language to handle that kind of reliability and that kind of throughput. Erlang came up, which is how I ended up working at PXD. So so that is to say that if you want high reliability and a lot of capabilities for scaling, Erlang is the way to go. But with the Elixir front end, because it's a lot easier and better to program with Elixir.
Yeah, and just a 10-second aside for the listeners, what Erlang has, the Beam VM, the virtual machine that's running on, that's actually great is that effectively every single, not even process, every single action you run in your code runs almost in its own thread. So essentially anything can crash, but it will never crash the whole system or even produce effects as propagate aside from itself. Like that one sub process will stop working, and that's all that's going to happen. Plus, it handles retries. It's got messaging between processes. It's incredible. It is really recommended. It's multi-server by design, by the way, so you can scale
Mhm.
indefinitely.
Yep.
It's just
Uh,
not
s-
super easy to do strings.
it
Not
isn't,
literally.
but yeah,
Speaking of things that are easier, I heard you use FreeSWITCH too. That's where this a little bit started. So,
yeah, yeah.
can you tell us what you're using FreeSWITCH for?
Sure. So as I mentioned, so free switches for our RVR systems. Basically, and this is one of the key aspects of the ClueCon talk that I got out of it, is we are not using even a remote fraction of its capabilities. So all we use it for right now is as an interface between Patty, which is our Erlang system, where our logic resides, and our telcos. So when we need to send IVR calls, FreeSWITCH is what connects to the telco through either SIP lines or PRI lines. And then Patty connects to it via the Erlang mod for FreeSWITCH. And that's it. Like that's basically how it works and how it factors into our systems.
Nice. That is really well. I'm happy that FreeSWITCH is helping. And at the start, before we started the show, you mentioned that you're looking for some contributions to the FreeSWITCH side of things.
Yeah, if we can have somebody, and this is for anybody out there in the industry that wants to help out and reach millions of people and do some good in the world. I know it sounds kind of corny, but I mean that's the gist of it, right? Like we're there to help, and we have a big impact, which is again one of the reasons why I decided to work with PXD. I wanted to maximize my impact in the world to try to do as much good as I could. And if you're reaching 10 million people, uh, 1% of those, let's say, actually has a positive impact, and then 1% of those actually say, you know what, these guys help me, I'm going to help somebody else, and then 1% of those actually do help people, that is still like thousands of people, at least hundreds anyway, depending on how many millions we got, that will also do good in the world. So scale is the way to go. And that's my pitch. So if you want to help, we could use folks to help us leverage more of the capabilities of FreeSWITCH. So, like I said, we don't merely use uh, we actually don't use any of the capabilities of FreeSWITCH, right? So it has a lot of different potential to increase the way we do IVR, more customization in the calls, integration with AI systems, for example, which was one of the cool talks that I saw. Um, if you have that skill set and you want to help out, like we would be very, very thankful if you reached out to us and we can collaborate on that.
I'll ask flat out, but it doesn't matter. Like you're looking for volunteers, right?
Essentially, we could pay, but we're a nonprofit, so we got a little chump change.
Absolutely.
So,
And you almost convinced
yeah.
me. So probably shoot me a couple of emails. Well, let's pretend I will be able to help. If I can find
Fair
some
enough,
time,
fair
I
enough.
will. So what are the first features you're looking to add that you haven't been able
So
to?
yeah, so um I think the AI, because that's one of the big initiatives that we have right now, as everybody does, right? They all want to put the AI into their systems. So probably integrating with AI. So just to give you an idea of where we could use that, currently we have in India we have certain systems that we could use customized messages for weather information. So every day we get data from CFAN, who's a partner in weather. We translate that weather data into customized IBR messages, and then we send them out. One of the things that we would like to have is an AI that can field questions from farmers. So right now we do have a system where farmers can call in, they can ask us questions. One of our agronomists will listen to those questions and then select an answer or create a specific answer for that particular question, and then we send it back. So the bottleneck there, and not that our agronomists should not have a job, but they can't handle more than a few hundred calls per day. If we
Which
had an
makes
AI
sense.
system, right? Because they can't work 24 hours and 7 days a week. So we had an AI though that they can train, that they can develop, and then we can integrate that into our IVR system, into FreeSWITCH. Then we can have that scale up where we can reach millions of people, and handle all of their questions very quickly, very easily, and do a lot of good, right? Like at the end of the day, we're trying to help them have a better future for themselves, their families, and their communities.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, let's take a look. It's something that we certainly. I mean, second wire can help with the development side. Of course, AI runs the problem of being sort of expensive by itself. So we
Yeah.
can, but I'm sure we can help. Have you looked into so? Well, this is an interesting question. Have you looked into different language barriers maybe for using AI, especially the speech recognition, whatever. What kind of languages are you looking to target?
Yeah, so there's a specific language that we're using now, which we had an issue with. So it's called Canada, Kannada, and it's a very regional dialect in India. So there is no support for it in standard APIs that do text to speech or speech to text. So we had to develop our own system, basically an audio stitching technology, to be able to handle creating the customized audios for that particular language. So that's one of those challenges where I we didn't look into an AI system to handle that specifically, but given that we couldn't even find a text to speech system that could handle that language, I doubt there's going to be an AI system that can handle that.
Nice. That's yeah. The because we have been doing some work. That's why I'm saying I might be able to help a little bit. There's a group here. I'm from Italy. Italy has a lot of diversity when it comes to local dialects, especially when you're dealing with people that are a bit older. So
Mhm.
technically, they are speaking Italian. Like that would they don't even when they speak Italian, though the inflection, the accent, and even the words they use is different enough that it throws off speech recognition at times. And I'm thinking that from my experience, for example, from Central Africa, even if they do speak French, it's a very interesting kind of French. Same thing goes with the English, which I know less, but like for example Senegal, so they speak French there, but it's very very much different. And there's work being done on engines such as Whisper to enhance detection of little spoken languages. So there's a lot there in the open source world that will be interesting to do. That will need a team of like 5 people though, but we can take a look. Why not? It's interesting. So do you interaction are usually in English or French, I suppose.
And actually, mostly it's in the specific languages. So in India, it's usually in Hindi, and like I said, in specific cases where we have specific dialects, Canada is one of them. Probably our most the place where we do most English is in Kenya. So a lot of English speakers there as a second language, and sometimes they prefer that over Swahili, for example. Um, but yeah, in most other systems and regions, it's the local dialect. So whether that's Hindi or a specific subdialect of it, or in Ethiopia, Amharic, for example, not a lot of English. It's basically what it comes down to. So yeah, we try to talk to them in their own language, which is what they would like and what they prefer, obviously.
Yeah, there. I think it's very interesting. Another thing that doesn't pertain to what you're doing, but it's in the similar space is another thing that's been reported to us is older people. Like older people in general will actually, aside from accents and regional differences, will actually speak slightly different, and some
Mhm.
of the engines have trouble understanding that. So I think there's a lot of work there, and it's the kind of work that this is a call to action because I'm not from that area of IT, but I think people should start looking into that because if open source doesn't solve it, no one will. Those markets are not worth enough money, in my opinion,
Right.
that companies will cater to them. Right? It's the usual problem, and one you're trying to solve with precision, to be fair.
Correct. And it's I mean that's part of what we do, right? Like there's something to be said, companies got to make their money. But if you have a little bit of time and you want to help out, this is a great way to do it, right? And you learn some tech while you're at it. It's a plus.
Yeah,
So
it is definitely a. I have a couple people I can ask for help though, so we need to
cool.
talk. There's
Awesome. That would be great.
European governments have a lot of grants for that kind of work, whether it's language work or agriculture, whatever. So it might be
Mhm.
worth it looking into what you could get over here. I'll take a look. It's really interesting. Well, you
Cool.
mentioned you have a lot of land in Alaska. How did you come to own that much
Oh
land
yeah,
in
that's
Alaska? I'm
uh
just curious.
so that was so I love Alaska. Like I'm not from Alaska, but I went to work there back in 2008. And the moment I got off the plane, this is Alaska, by the way. My couch is in the way, but this is a picture from Alaska. This is from Denali. Um, I just fell in love. I just fell in. I don't know how else to say it. It's like love at first sight. You just fell in love. Um, and then I purchased like 4 little acres. And there's this the Department of Natural Resources in Alaska, and there's a land department, and they send out like updates. So I had my 4 little acres in Alaska, and then all of a sudden I got some emails saying, "Hey, like we're doing agricultural auction of land because they want to feed Alaska." Like one of the big problems with Alaska is that there's the food prices are really high because everything has to be shipped, right? Like there's no agriculture in negative 60-degree weather, so it's pretty cold. Um, so they called out to folks that wanted to do some farming in Alaska, and I decided to bid on it. Um, I I had to think about it for a long time because it's a big commitment. So it's 250 acres, and there's certain clauses in the land contract that you have to abide by. So basically, I have 10 years. This is what I've given myself, 10 years to grow oranges in Alaska and
Oh,
and yeah.
nice.
So, uh, so that's the plan. Hopefully, again, not just grow oranges, but grow other crops like corn and wheat and so on, and some dairy and cows because like there's no like I think a gallon of milk in Alaska currently costs around $10 or something like that, which is very
Wow,
expensive. It's not. Yeah,
really?
yeah. Yeah, it's very, very expensive.
Yes,
So
definitely.
so so that's the idea, is to help out the folks and, it's my retirement plan in a way, but it's also, trying to help people. As you may notice, this theme with me. So, but yeah,
that's very nice, very interesting. Yeah, I think you're doing great work, and hopefully, well, we'll see what can do with FreeSWITCH. On the FreeSWITch side,
yeah,
I might have got something for you. On the rest, we'll see if we can get someone to help. But really, it's
awesome.
really so. Again, people take a look at Precision. Reach out to Alex. There's a lot you can do there. We can get something done that's for good. We can learn a lot in the meantime. Still, the work on emerging languages and marginal languages and AI, there's a lot there that has money in it. So if anybody is an expert in that sector, that's also something we can take a look and work on together. And well, Alex, I mean, that was great. Thank you very much for joining us today.
And thank you for having me and for teaching me because you guys taught me a lot while I was there at ClueCon. So thank you.
Well, we'll try to help too. And well, again, Alex Ramirez, head of software development and precision development, join us today. Agriculture is booming. It's still something we need to do because we still need to eat something, and especially developing countries need that. And come help. Need help for FreeSWITCH, other things, and reach out to me or Alex anytime. There's going to be links in the video, and we'll see what we can get together. So again, Alex, thank you for joining us today again.
Thank you.
And for the rest of the people, I'll see you next week. Goodbye.